Welcome to Corrective Consciousness episode 281, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is
Lotus Prince.
And another wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous show ahead. We are continuing our discussion on the Ghostbusters franchise with kind of We talked about Ghostbusters 1 and 2, and you're like, okay, what else is there? Well, other than...
I know there's a few other things, but
Yeah.
when you say we are going to be talking about the Ghostbusters, you're using that pretty liberally.
Well, here's the thing, is, even some of this stuff I don't know in particular, but at least we could, discuss it a little bit, and I can give you, the grounds about it.
Sure. I don't really drink coffee, though.
It's okay. You don't have to drink in it. You could just bask in it. But anyway.
Baskin? Haven't had ice cream in a little while either.
Baskin means something completely different to everybody who's a Tiger King fan. But anyway.
Yeah.
But you're of course talking about 31 flavors, Baskin Robbins, right? But
that is correct. And the reason I brought up coffee was because you said that you can provide me with grounds.
Yeah. Anyway, so here's the thing about Ghostbusters is before the the female-led Ghostbusters of 2016, there was a lot of stuff that attempted to happen. They tried to make a third movie for a very, 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 very long time. Dan Aykroyd was, of course, always behind it. It's his series, basically. If you have to point towards anybody who is the driving force of what Ghostbusters is,
they actually had to restrict a lot of his stuff because they're like, number one, this stuff is
he's a crazy person,
fucking weird. But number two, even if we did do it, there's no way we could pull it off.
Yeah, that's true. They could probably pull it off these days with the technology that we have.
You just do whatever.
CG. Yeah. In fact, they should probably they should let him go wild because a lot of the stuff is too safe, if you ask me. That's from this point on. But
well, yeah, that's a lot of problem with a lot of Ghostbusters media. It's just you can't get too different, otherwise people will complain that it's not what they know, but that just means that they release the same shit over and over again.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame, and we'll get into that as we.
It's like Star Wars, you can't escape Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, no matter what you do, unless you're everything that's not the movies.
I was just gonna say, all the stuff that's good is the stuff that isn't
not
as
the
popular.
Core of the entire thing. Yeah,
exactly. There was a point where they were making really great Star Wars novels. Star Wars novels are have some really good shit in it.
Those were hit and miss. There were some really good ones though.
The Timothy Zahn ones I'm talking about. The Timothy Zahn ones are exceptional. The Thrawn, Admiral Thrawn, Thrawn stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So and what I'm trying to say is the really good Star Wars stuff is the Clone Wars series and the comic books. The comic books right now are really fantastic, but you're never gonna. The Mandalorian's really great too, but all of that's side stuff compared to the movies, and the movies are always disappointing. So because there's too much pressure on them to try to get everybody to like it, rather than telling a fucking good story. But anyway, so Ghostbusters just kind of floundered for a while, and it was a good long time before something else happened. One thing that I forgot to mention, and we'll talk about this a bit later because one of our fans mentions it, but there was an arcade game based off of the real Ghostbusters. So I just wanted to quickly throw that out there, a Data East one, before we move on to the stuff that kind of people forget about this particular thing. So in between everything, there was a second cartoon, which a lot of people kind of block out of their memory. And I think there is kind of a contingent of people who, I guess, didn't see it and make fun of it. If that means if that makes any sense, because I actually used to watch this show when it I was legitimately happy that they released it, but it was Extreme Ghostbusters. Did you ever get a chance to see that?
I never saw any of the cartoons, but I remember the commercials for Extreme Ghostbusters.
I actually liked it quite a bit. So the premise of the show, and this was in 1997, so quite a bit after the second movie. Was the second movie 1989? Yeah, I think that's what it is. Ghostbusters 2 is... Ghostbusters 2 was 1989. I was correct. You had the real Ghostbusters, which ended, I think, in 94 or 95. So, like...
And then you had the Ghostbusters cameo in Casper live-action
Yeah,
movie.
you know what? That's kind of funny, is a lot of people don't realize that was actually Dan Aykroyd. That was him.
I mean, that's why the joke worked.
Yeah, but when I was a kid, I didn't realize it was Dan Aykroyd because he had a mustache.
Okay.
At the time, so like I thought it was just like, kind of like a cute little funny gag.
Like a nod, yeah.
But like no, they had a real Ghostbuster in Casper. Extreme Ghostbusters is basically a sequel to the real Ghostbusters, the cartoon show, and this was on in syndication every weekday, kind of like an after school, like Disney afternoon kind of thing, but on a different channel. And it had one season and 40 episodes, but I liked it quite a bit. So the premise of the show was that Egon was the only is a professor at college. So kind of like the original premise of the movies, where Dan Aykroyd's character and Bill Murray's character were professors to start with. I don't know what Egon was. I think they just kind of was he a professor too? I don't know. In the movie, but
I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen either.
Egon is a professor at college and is running a ghost, like a ghost, course, I guess is what you would call it. And like five kids end up joining it. It's like very underwhelming. Like nobody believes in it anymore. That kind of thing. And they end up becoming the new Ghostbusters of a new generation. So I think the show gets a lot of flack, first of all, for being called Extreme Ghostbusters because, that was the era of extreme stuff.
Yeah, that was radical 90s.
And just the name itself dates it, and also like tips you off that they're trying hard. So that's a problem. But outside of that, it was actually a pretty good show. Now, one of the things that a lot of people point to as a criticism of the show is that the characters in it were all brand new except for Egon. He's like the elder statesman in there, and like the old characters do show up for a really cool episode, where they return, but that was like a one-off, you know what I mean? So you had Peter Venkman show up, and Ray Vance and
Ray Stantz.
Ray Stantz, I'm sorry.
Ray Bans are those glasses that I don't own.
Ray Stantz and Ernie Hudson all show up, but
Ernie Hudson, Winston.
Oh, Winston, yeah, Winston shows up. I'm sorry. Jeez, man. But yeah, like what was cool about it was and Slimer is still there, of course.
Oh, thank God.
So he can be kind of like the mascot, but he's the good
the thing
ghost
that killed the older Ghostbuster show. Yes,
he's the good ghost that is their like Scooby-Doo or whatever, and but the thing that they made fun of the show for was that it was like a very diverse like cast. Like you had a Hispanic character, you had a black character, you had a girl, and
one of them was like a goth.
A gothy girl, and a white guy in a wheelchair. So it
Yeah,
was
I do kind of remember that. Yeah.
It was a PC '90s cast. Don't get me wrong. It was very Burger King Kids Club in that respect.
Yeah.
A Burger King Kids Club. It was exactly like that.
Although, props to Extreme Ghostbusters for not calling the kid in the wheelchair fucking Wheels.
Oh God, yeah.
Wolverine made a joke about that in the '90s. Or the 2000, I think, the first X-Men movie.
Yeah, it's like
looking at because
Cyclops.
The guy with the visor covering his eyes is called Cyclops, and he's like, really? And he looks at Xavier. What do they call you, Wheels?
I mean, at least they had enough wherewithal to not call Jean Grey Marvel Girl. Like, come on.
No, I know, but I like the idea that Wolverine's like, you actually go out in public and you call yourself Cyclops. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Come on. I don't even know when they started calling him Wolverine, but I guess that was his
code name,
fight name. But
yeah,
that itself is kind of corny though. He's like an animal, he's a Wolverine. Like, all right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they're superheroes. It's a goofy premise to begin with, but
yeah.
But yeah, Extreme Ghostbusters was cool because they redesigned a lot of the weaponry, which was cool. They had these new futuristic proton packs. They had ones that looked like pistols, like dual-wielding pistols, rather than almost like a. I guess you could almost say that the wand of the proton pack is similar to like an AK-47 almost. A rifle at least. In the originals, so and they do call it the wand, so I'm not making that up, but they had these circular traps that were quicker and could be put out and look neat. But what I liked about this show was that I always had this feeling, just like with the original cartoon show, that's the way that Ghostbusters should have been. Like every movie needs to be something epic for it to justify being a movie. Whereas I think that this is a really good premise for a TV show for a Monster of the Week. Yeah, and that is exactly what it is.
I mean, I will say a movie doesn't need to have oh, that was it. Because, that would be disappointing.
Sure.
But what made the first Ghostbusters so charming is that it was 95% of the movie was mundane. Until it was accidentally climactic at the end.
Exactly, and it was a parody of that kind of send up.
Yeah, what do we do about this? Shoot it, and it worked.
And it leads up to a Marshmallow Man that's easily defeated by the weapons that they already have.
Yeah, it's a good thing it's made out of the softest and also edible,
most edible and meltable substance known to man.
Yeah, careful, he's really, really annoying the city.
That is kind of funny. Is he accidentally picked the best thing he could have picked.
Yeah, well, it's like when Peter Venkman got slimed, he's like, I got slimed. That's the end of that. It was the same thing where you get that big shot when the Marshmallow Man blows up and it falls all over Walter Peck. That's not the end of Walter Peck. It's just that's extremely annoying.
Yeah, he just got shamed.
Yeah, he's just gonna get up
shamed.
God damn it! I was covered with the monster, and then he moves on with his life.
But what I like about this this TV show was that they encountered different types of ghosts, and which is what I found compelling about it. I mean, that every episode is a new ghost, and they have to figure out how to deal with it. And the nature of each ghost is different. They even fight Lotus the Sphinx at some point, and they have to answer the riddle of the Sphinx.
Well, good thing it's one of the most famous riddles in existence.
Well, yeah, it's
ironically
well known.
It doesn't have the same impact it did thousands of years ago.
It's well known to the educated, but as a 12-year-old or 13-year-old or whatever,
12 or 13-year-old might not know. It's that one only tells truth, one only tells lies. It's if you never heard it, it's terrifying, but a lot of people have heard it by this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a lot of the riddles in The Hobbit. It's if you already know the answer, there's no challenge to it.
Well, to be fair with the riddles in The Hobbit, Some of them are legit riddles. Some of them are horseshit.
I mean, that's the same thing with Blaine the Train, right? I mean,
well, yeah, but that was the point of that. Is he beat him with bullshit that like only works as a joke.
You could argue that it's a play off of The Hobbit, because Stephen King had always said that the Dark Tower,
Bilbo cheated. Like, what's in my pocket? Like, that's not a fucking riddle.
yeah, exactly. But anyway, I really just like the concept of like you get a new threat every time and it's different every time.
Yes.
And I actually like the cast of characters. There was they brought out brand new toys for it as well, which I actually had picked up at the time because I was into it. I really like the new Ecto 1 that they put out. It was just really cool. And get this, Tara Strong was the gothy girl, and Billy West was in it. Billy West was in it. So like this wasn't like a bad show. It's just that I think it gets a bad rap from people that didn't want to give it a chance, you know? Yeah,
probably the first thing I was aware of Tara Strong in was like either the Powerpuff Girls or Killer 7. And in Killer 7 she plays the most like low-key role probably anyone has ever played, but you would never guess it was Tara Strong.
So, Real Ghostbusters ended in '91. I'm sorry. So this was still quite a bit, 6 years after. So I mean, there was quite a gap there, and there was a bad video game as well, a bad Game Boy Color game. So don't seek that out. But I do think that this was worth watching. I don't think it was bad. I think it gets a bad rap. Honestly, I think it was actually pretty good. And moving on from that, so there's still once this ended. Obviously, it wasn't like a super success. It only had one season. I mean, 40 episodes isn't bad in itself. But the thing with cartoon shows is that they rarely have more than 1 or 2 seasons. Just because they know that kids' interests wane, and like a new generation of kids that age need to be entertained because kids move on to other things very quickly. So like it's even like I said, like you take something like Batman the Animated Series, which is one of the most iconic cartoons of all time, and also a successful one, only had 3 seasons. That's insane. Like there are very few. I can only think of like the Ninja Turtles and the Power Rangers have endured. Well, you have SpongeBob, I guess now. SpongeBob's endured.
Well, those endured because at the very least there were new iterations of them. It's not like the '80s Ninja Turtles is on season 12 right now or anything like that.
The '80s Ninja Turtles did last a long time. It lasted like until 1996. It went from like 89 to 96.
That is pretty crazy.
That's what I was getting at. Like its original run didn't stop for a while. Power Rangers, I guess you can make the argument that it like every season is something different. But
yeah,
like,
and that's the case of Super Sentai as well, or Kamen Rider. There's like your 40 whatever episodes, and then there's a new iteration. There's a degree of continuity, but like more as a wink.
Yeah, not really. I gotcha. But I enjoyed this one. But moving on after that, like this was starting to get to the internet era, right around 2000, where people were really widely using the internet. And going on to forums and talking about things, and Dan Aykroyd had repeatedly gone on talk shows and things and said that he wanted to get the 3rd movie going, and he wanted to get everybody involved. And I think part of the problem was that Harold Ramis and Bill Murray had a very it was behind doors, but a famously bad falling out. Nobody talks about why or anything like that. Which is really a big shame because Harold Ramis and Bill Murray, like their best stuff is when they were together. The best Bill Murray movies are Harold Ramis movies. I mean, one of my favorite comedies of all time is Groundhog Day. That's a Harold Ramis movie. I mean, so Stripes is a Harold Ramis movie as well. So like it's really a shame that they had a falling out. And who knows about what. But Bill Murray is kind of a little contentious, so I don't know if I always heard that Harold Ramis was a nice guy, so I don't know, so, who's at fault or whatever, but I'm sure it may have stemmed from who made a certain thing better or whatever, but in truth, them working together is what it's kind of like the Beatles, like everybody being there is what made it good. It wasn't just, it may have been one-sided, but like without everybody being there, being part of the soup, it wouldn't be the soup. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You need to have, that little touch of oregano for it to be the thing that's that good, that kind of thing. Whereas, somebody could definitely be the backbone of it. But, I think, when egos get involved, that kind of stuff it becomes a shame because, you just want to see more things by them. You want to see them get along. But at any rate, they couldn't get a third movie going. They couldn't get the funding for it or couldn't get everybody to agree on it. But eventually what they were able to do was eventually something came out online of a fan-created third-person video game around the time of the PS3 and original and Xbox 360 of a third-person action Ghostbusters game, and people went wild over the concept, and the fan-made thing looked really good. Like it looked like something you would want to play, and people really, really, really grabbed onto that. But from there, Dan Aykroyd was able to they shut that down, that the fan made thing, but they made their own kind of based off of that concept, and basically got all the original guys to be in on a video game that would take the place of a third movie. That
game just is Ghostbusters 3.
And it's really, really good. It's better than it has any right to be. You would think that a game like that coming out of the blue with, without, it's a licensed thing, and it's something that, you wouldn't think that...
It's bringing out a 30-year-old series.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that something would have that kind of love and care put into it, but there's some of the old ghosts are in it, and they give you, more advanced lore behind them, which is really cool when you scan them. You learn about stuff about them that you never did before. There's other ghosts in there that you learn all kinds of things about. And of course, you do have those moments where, you fight the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, because that's what, people wanted that, obviously. You can't have that kind of thing.
It's cool to relive the moment, but, not in Ghostbusters 3. It's we beat that guy. That's the same thing that I felt when I saw the trailer for Afterlife. Yeah. I'm like, why is the Marshmallow Man here? What is this?
The Marshmallow Man is in a different form in Afterlife, and it does make sense that he's there. It doesn't make much sense that he's there in the game. It's kind of like Pyramid Head. Why are you here? In this thing that isn't Silent Hill 2, that has a very specific context as to why you're here.
Yeah, that drives me crazy.
But yeah, so I really enjoy this one. It's a lot of fun. You play as a character that is, a no-name new guy who's following along with the adventures, which is pretty cool. So you're not playing as one of the iconic characters. All the iconic characters are reacting to things around you, which is the way it should be, honestly. It's who wants to play it? Playing as one of them is not as much fun. You kind of just want to hear the banter and all that kind of stuff. So
that's the thing. It's you don't I know there's the sense of satisfaction in playing as your favorite character. I can be Superman, I can fly, but the whole thing with Ghostbusters is that anybody could be one. Even they shouldn't really be one. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, precisely. They're exterminators, just like we've been talking about. So I enjoyed that. I think it's a really good one. I would absolutely recommend. I think you could still get it these days on PC, and I think they brought it back to modern consoles, didn't they, recently?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't think I dreamt that. But yeah, that game is really good. It's like I said, better than had any right, and they
and one thing I really get
even got Bill Murray to be back in it.
Yeah, that's a feat. But the one thing I really get a kick out of, like this genuinely amuses me. Normally, it bothers me when there's been whatever franchise, like in this case, it's Ghostbusters, but where like it's been established for who knows how long, right? It's been forever. Why am I playing a Ghostbusters game where I have crappy equipment that gets better and better? Like, shouldn't I have what the Ghostbusters have? But the logic behind the game is that because you're the new guy, they're trying out the new experimental stuff on you.
Yeah.
And, like, whatever happens. You're just, like, you're just the guinea pig. And that's, like...
That's very the movie.
That's the perfect Ghostbusters kind of cynicism.
Yeah.
Like, that's like absolutely like a Peter Venkman decision. Like that's like such a douchey, believable thing in the Ghostbusters universe that like,
because
it enhances rather than detracts from the experience.
Peter Venkman is a dirtbag. I mean, he just
that's the whole thing. What about this new material that we don't know anything about and might do more research on later? Give it to the new guy. Like that. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So I like I said, it has this like cool fishing like mechanic, with the proton packs.
Oh, oh, come on, folklore.
Yeah, but this came out in 2009. It is out on pretty much everything you could think of. Switch, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and there was Xbox 360 and PC. So I also, at the same time, they came out with a Wii and PS2 version that was actually a different game that had versions of the characters that were based off of the real Ghostbusters models. Which
that's amusing.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So this was a pretty awesome game for the time. I recommend playing the PS3 version or the PC version. They are a little bit higher fidelity. Well, in these days you can play it on PS4. Play the PS4 version.
Yeah.
But this was a cool game and a cool concept. And they got everybody back except for Sigourney Weaver, I think, and Louis Tilly, whatever his name is, Louis Tully. Rick Moranis, but they had Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Bill Murray, and Ernie Hudson, and Ernie Hudson was actually in it. Like he was there, doing his thing. So, this was cool. And Annie Potts was in it. Max von Sydow, wow, jeez,
wow.
William Atherton, I think that's the No Dick Man. Yeah.
Who was Max von Sydow?
Max von Sydow.
Like again, it's like, was he the hotel guy? It's been a million years since I've seen the movie.
I think Max von Sydow was Vigo the Carpathian, wasn't he?
Not a chance. Not a chance. That was like a German boxer.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me click into this.
Which is why he had like 2 lines in the entire movie.
Now
I'm looking this up right now.
Yeah,
Ghostbusters? What the
he was
hell?
Vigo. Yeah, I was right.
Max von Sydow was Ghostbusters 2 Vigo?
Yeah, I was right.
Well, it says he provided the voice for Vigo.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the voice for Vigo. Okay, fair enough. It's like the face, not a chance. I can't imagine. I have to look that up.
Yeah. So
von Homburg was the body of Vigo. That blows my mind that he was overdubbed. I thought they gave him like 1 line because they just used his voice.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
But yeah, good stuff. But yeah, I just thought that was. Oh yeah, so he was in Seventh Seal. So he was the.
Yeah, he was the guy playing chess with death, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's super old school, and he was also in. Wasn't it one of the Exorcist movies at some point?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe he was the priest. Yeah, he was in Exorcist too. There you go.
Okay.
Which is largely considered to be like the worst movie in the franchise. Apparently 3 is good, which I need to go watch that.
Yeah, I've seen reviews of 3. It looks interesting, and I will say, by the way,
he's in the first one too. Okay, so
he's in the first one. You know Brad Dourif, the voice of Chucky?
Yeah.
He's like what is he called? The Gemini Killer or whatever in 3.
Oh wow.
You must go to YouTube and look up just his angry rantings, like when he gets frustrated.
Oh, he has a scary voice.
It is something else. Like, it is spectacular.
Part of his performance as Chucky that makes it like him like so special is that he just sounds so freaking angry.
Well, he's not an angry doll. He's a punk. Like, and he's got that voice. He just gets because like the whole thing with the Gemini Killer in Exorcist 3 is supposedly like he's been possessed by a demon, and the George C. Scott, I don't know his character's name, is in the jail cell with him, and he's like, the Gemini Killer is dead, and he just suddenly flips out like, I am not dead, but it's the most like amazing full on like furious several seconds of just rant. It like, you must see it. I've never seen the movie, but that scene is the best thing.
Speaking of Brad Dourif, they recently came out with like a Chucky TV show. And apparently it was like really good, and he was Chucky
he's
again.
Still back. Like, I think there's only one Chucky movie or thing ever that he hasn't voiced, and that was the Mark Hamill one. Yeah,
and that wasn't successful at all. And
it was apparently pretty good though, and it was a reinterpretation.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to watching it, but it just didn't hit with people. But I do like the concept of a TV show. So like, just kind of like with they did with Army of Darkness or Evil Dead, they made it into a TV show. Like, I like the monster of a week, what would happen if this person had to deal with like everyday situations rather than, like the ticking time bomb bullshit that's in every movie, Yeah. So, but like, apparently it got renewed for a second season, so I need to watch this. It sounds great.
Sure.
I'll go back to it. But anyway, I think we should stop there because the next thing is the 2016, and we have to give that its own time. I would say.
Sure.
At this point, we're too long in the show to talk about that and the situation and everything surrounding the 2016 movie. But I think this was good to have this episode because this is kind of like the Apocrypha episode. Because it's not the movies, but I think it was important to point out this stuff because, like, this is actually like some highlights of the series that you might not realize is out there. So let's move on to fan stuff.
Sure. So School Filmer has a couple of comments. Black Friday, I'm personally not a fan of it or of the week, but the funny thing is I originally had like the Black Week as the deadline for the calendar. Good thing I finished before that, considering I managed to sell every calendar that my mother and I made. 50 in total, some are intended as Christmas presents for friends and family, and the rest were sold and given away to others locally. Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
In other news, I've been watching Allo Allo lately, and it's one of my favorite comedy shows. The main reason is that unlike others, this one has a consistent plot line and it spanned 9 seasons. Nothing new on the Switch side, but I was looking forward to the GTA trilogy there, and unfortunately, looks like a hot mess as of yet. So I guess I'll stick with Skyrim as a great example of a Switch port, and GTA 4 on PS3 with all its episodes because of the ballad's amazing pause theme, and that episode's explosive punches and kicks cheat code.
Oh, wow.
That sounds amazing.
That sounds
and launching
awesome.
vehicles with a certain swing set never gets old. And my favorite indie games, Dust and Elysian Tale was quite the experience the first time I played it. Stardew Valley is very soothing, and I should try exploring more of the new island secrets. Bloody Bunny, the game, was a guilty pleasure, and it looks like it's getting DLC with a playable dark rabbit, so I'm not out of the woods yet.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, I never heard of that one.
Yeah.
Cook Serve Delicious 2 and 3 were stressful, but fun. Just got to the Iron Cook Speedway in 3, and ooh boy, is it tough. Great music during those stages, though. And then Cat Quest and its sequel was quite nice. The Mew Game modifiers, I like that. Not New Game, it's Mew Game.
Yeah.
If you're going to lean into it, man, go all the way.
Do it. Yeah.
They had a good challenge as well. And Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair was just nostalgic fun. Yeah,
I heard that was good.
I was going to say, I heard Yooka-Laylee was kind of mediocre and redundant, but the Impossible Lair was quite good.
Yeah, I want to check that out.
Yeah, and Stranga Games simply says, thanks for answering my question and for the shout-out, guys. I really appreciate it. You are most welcome.
Of course, yeah.
And speaking of which, we got your second half of your question coming up. And C. Barry says, I remember the Ghostbusters arcade machine. This is what Vice was alluding to earlier. It was a repurposed Japanese game turned into Ghostbusters. What I saw from the original Japan game...
The original game was Makio Hunter G. It was a Data East game.
Oh, bizarre. Yeah. So what I saw from the original game was that I think they actually improved on the visuals going to Ghostbusters, as well as changing sprites to make it a Ghostbusters game.
Yeah, it was actually a better game when they did it. It was almost like a sequel using the same engine, just like, more modified than it was. Sure. Almost like Life Force and Salamander, that kind of situation. Okay. But it was like an overhead like arcade game where I think it was up to three players, which was pretty fun. We used to be able to see it at MagFest every once in a while. Yeah, it was a 3-player game. Yeah, I was right.
And then the question is actually the second half of Stranga Games' question from last time. What are some of your favorite stories in video games, indie, AAA, whatever? I see there's been a lack of good storytelling in the past few years as games are shifting more into competitive online multiplayer. The storytelling's still there, but yeah, you might have to look more into the lower, or not the lower, but like the not AAA studios or the indie stuff, perhaps.
Yep. I would say one of my favorites that I always take the time to point out whenever this kind of thing is brought up is Oddworld: Stranger's Wrath. I really love the story of that game. I bring this one up because I feel like that game is very underrated. Even amongst like Oddworld fans, like the Abe stuff usually gets talked about more. So Oddworld: Stranger's Wrath has an awesome story that evolves over time. I love the Mother games.
Those are incredible,
especially 2 and 3. 3 has one of the best storylines I like in a video game ever.
That is way up there.
It's really, really good. I also really like the story in Breath of the Wild. I thought it was a big triumph that they, added a good story to Zelda. Like Zelda.
Yeah, I was gonna say Zelda. Well, we talked about this before with on Reactive with MMOs. Like, go to next place because there might be a bad guy there. You should go there. Like, that's a lot of what Zelda is, really. There's a premise. You got to stop Ganon and get the Triforce, but that's more of a premise. There's not really...
It's never been about character development, really, until, like, Ocarina of Time was, like, the first time...
and even then, like, it's there. Like, Majora's Mask, probably.
Yeah, I mean, like probably the first game with a lot of characterization in it was like Link's Awakening. That's where the start of like characterization really starts. Okay,
because I was gonna say Majora's Mask, not even for the story because the story is pretty basic, but the character studies are that's what the game really is.
But Breath of the Wild manages to take these characters that have existed for a very long time and give them like emotional complexity that was never there before, especially with Zelda. Zelda is not a perfect person, and downright is depressed and distraught. And like you don't see that. You never saw that from that character ever before.
No, because you never saw that character before, because she always gets captured 5 seconds into the game.
Yeah, not only that, but like she's jealous of the main character who is you. Like she's jealous of Link because he gets to be the hero, and she's the hero that failed. So like it was. It was a really, really good storytelling in that game, and I really, really enjoy it, and I can't wait for the sequel. Like I hope it's as impactful, because I really, really did love that. But you're right, Zelda games are tripping. See, a lot of people like the lore and the surrounding themes and things.
That's the whole thing. Well, that's what I was going to mention in a little bit, actually, was like Dark Souls. There's almost no story, but the lore is like endless and endlessly fascinating. But like, what are you actually doing in Dark Souls. They told me to ring a bell, I rang the bell, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You have Max Payne 2, which is a fantastic story. I really recommend that. Well, I'll let you say a few, Lotus. I mean, I'm sure you have a few under your belt.
Yeah, I got a few. I mean, RPGs are easy ones to go to. Chrono Triggers is fantastic and cleverly told.
Absolutely.
There was, I mean, I've played this a little more recently, but Suikoden 2, I mean, there's the standard warring factions, but the way you go about getting the characters, even if it's just the mandatory ones, and when you see the strategies and the counter strategies that each side of the war uses, and when you see what's going on the other side of the war, like, they go way deeper than I would have expected anything like that, especially at the time. Like, it is amazing to see, like, one of those Fire Emblem battle sequences play out, and then you see, like, the discussion in the war room of, like, what should have happened and now what we have to do as a result of this and what the enemy's probably going to be thinking of. And then when you see what the enemy's actually thinking of, it's great. They go so far into that stuff. There's I don't know, like, I'm debating between story and, like, the character study stuff, but, like, Skies of Arcadia and Valkyria Chronicles have really good, like, developments. Valkyria Chronicles, again, with the strategies and counter strategies in the backgrounds, and when you see what the enemy is fighting for and what you are fighting for, and how intrigue plays into the factions as well as the neutral territory that they're fighting over. And Skies of Arcadia, it's about world exploration and getting to know various different people from various different locales and getting them to team up with you and fighting the Empire and seeing the Empire's characters' interactions with each other. One thing I also want to shout out, I've probably mentioned this before, but the first Last of Us, its story is okay. Like, it has particular moments that I find interesting, but I will say it has one of my favorite endings in a video game ever. Because of, like, its execution.
I was going along with that. I mean, the Uncharted games, like, especially 2 and 4, like, have just wonderful stories. 4 is the absolute standout in terms of story.
Yeah, 4 really goes well with, especially taking into account, like, what kind of person you'd have to be to have done Uncharted 1 and 3. It's like, do you care about anyone outside of your immediate treasure finding at all, and you have to deal with that?
Yeah, like, the character gets called out on, like, bullshit like that, like, he and has to deal with real world ramifications of, like, you know, like, dealing with a loved one that, you know, you can't just ditch your loved ones.
Well, like, that's the thing, and even the player kind of feels it, because it's like, oh, I want to play video game, but, like, the person who's calling you out is 100% right.
Yeah.
Like, you're being grossly irresponsible.
And is lucky that she understood, because she loves the character, but, like, she, like, anybody who, like, a lot of people would have dropped him, like, would have just straight up dropped him for doing what he did. And so I really loved 4. I loved the characterization. I loved the dialogue.
Very, very well done.
I know this is cheating, Lotus, but we have to nod to, like, all the visual novels that we really like. I mean, like, you know,
starting with Snatcher, of course.
Snatcher, Ace Attorney, like Phoenix Wright in particular. The third one and Apollo Justice are my 2 favorites in that series. I really
if we're doing that, then 428 like explodes out of this contest. Like, not only the story, but the way it's executed and how you can influence it even to the wrong endings is unbelievable.
Danganronpa 1 and 2. I haven't played 3 yet, so I can't tell you that. But I really like 9 Persons, 9 Hours, 9 Doors. That was awesome. You know, their visual novels are cheating because, like, of course they need to be good.
They damn well better be good. They're books.
That's what they are. Yeah, they're books. Yeah, exactly. But, you know, in particular, those are the ones I like. I love the murder mystery ones.
And FF6 is also fantastic, by the way. Final Fantasy VI, especially because of what it does that just wasn't done in video games before. FF7 also had one of those, like, video games just don't do this moments that's, like, iconic to this day.
Absolutely. I would say that this, I haven't beaten this yet. But like I really love the character
Well, like a
studies.
dragon.
Yeah, and Like a Dragon. Yeah, the character studies at least so
Ichiban
far.
is very likable.
I just everything about that game is lovely. And I you know, to actually beat it is something, or actually play it. I mean, another thing is we're completely glancing over is like the Metal Gear Solid series. I mean, you can't have a story about like a question about story. I mean, you can argue that some of them are weaker than others. I mean, 4 is probably the weakest in terms of storytelling, but it has its moments that are like really good. Like in particular, the very end of 4 is particularly touching. But
yeah, the ending really comes together.
The you know, the whole hand-to-hand battle and
that was amazing, especially when the health bars or I don't remember if the health bars did it, but when the music changes for each phase of the battle in a way that was particularly effective.
I would even argue like the radiation tunnel on is
with the montage that was great.
The radiation tunnel is like one of the most like genius moments in video game design, if you ask me. Like it makes you go through something you don't want to go through, but you have to. And you can feel it. Like the character is having such a hard time getting through that. And he's probably the only person alive who could get through there. That's another thing, is because, you know, he's, you know, kind of specially treated to be able to do that. But he also knows he's walking to his death by doing it. And that was something really special. But I mean, the fifth game has some really crazy storytelling moments that just were really really get you in the gut, especially if you played Ground Zeroes in conjunction with it. There's some stuff in there that is really, really heavy.
I've only played Ground Zeroes, but that's some of the most uncomfortable I've been in a game, and it was audio only.
That's where the majority of a lot of the best parts of Metal Gear actually happen in the lore. It's hard to separate. It's hard because like some of the best story experiences are like finding it in these games, and like if you're basing it off of like that kind of stinks.
Yeah, if you want to have that conversation, then Dark Souls. But if you want to say which has the best story, then like Dark Souls comes in last place.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Just like go do thing.
Metal Gear has that problem too, in that like a lot of the shit is like hidden within the game. So technically, the storytelling method is bad because you have to work to get the story, and especially like one of the biggest plot points in Metal Gear like mythology that you need to know to understand it is hidden in, you know, text files that like there's lots of them, and like if you like you have to understand the enormity of what you're reading too. Is that like Adam or Shalasaska or whatever, you know, Ocelot is the son of the boss and the Sorrow, and like they don't make that explicit anywhere else but that text file. And that is important to understand why it's him versus Snake in particular, and why, you know, it's that dynamic in particular is important. But yeah.
I will give one shout out to one more effective story. The actual overall story of the game is pretty straightforward. Go to place, get thing. But one of the most creative storytelling moments I can think of in a video game, which you're really better off experiencing for yourself. If I describe it, it's like, oh, that sounds cool, but like if you experience it in the moment, it has a whole different effect. But it's Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons.
Oh yeah.
There's a part in the game where you only control one brother, like at that particular point, and the way the game helps communicate this is done in a way that I genuinely don't know if it ever has been done, because it's like there's a certain message that is sent to you, like, through the controls, as strange as that sounds. But, like, if you actually play the game, then you would know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But, like, it conveys an actual message that, like, I don't want to spoil what it is or how it's executed, but, like, it's literally through how the game is played. And I don't mean, like, now you have to do this thing in the game instead, but I mean literally, like, how you, like, control the game, like, with the controller in your hand, or with the keyboard, or however you're playing it. I've never seen that before.
I mean, we have to at least say, like, the Silent Hill games. I mean, we did mention them. Silent Hill 2.
Silent Hill 2 especially, because a lot of that game is symbolism. Like, the whole game is trying to tell you a story.
And it couldn't be told in any other way.
And that, like, do you not understand what you're seeing? It's like that.
It couldn't be told in any other medium, in any other way than how it was told.
Yeah, like, Silent Hill 1 is straightforward. You need to rescue your daughter from a creepy cult and there's, like, weird demons running around. Silent Hill 2 is more metaphorical.
Yeah.
And so, like, once you beat the game, if you start it again, it might hit a whole different way.
Exactly.
Oh, one other thing I almost forgot to mention is Eternal Darkness. That's a very clever idea where a lot of different protagonists across different locations in the world and across time, not even times, but, like, eras in history, are all coming together to reach this greater picture, to approach this final conclusion, which I thought was very cleverly handled.
Absolutely.
Especially because of the fact that the game is aware that there are multiple ways to play the game. Like, when you play the game at the very beginning, you control a centurion called Pius Augustus, and he becomes the villain of the game, like, almost immediately. This is not a spoiler. It's, like, the first thing that happens. At the very beginning of the game, you enter this shrine, and there are 3 artifacts, one for each of the 3 big ancients, like the ancient evils in the game, like the Cthulhu entities, and you pick one. And whichever one you pick, that is the element that villain is sided with. And when you start playing the game as Alex, who's the main protagonist, you start with the opposing elements. Like, you eventually get all 3, but the villain is particularly affiliated with one particular final boss. And this is expressed in certain ways, like, enemies are going to be a little bit different. Like, there'll be more of this color enemy than that color, even though you encounter all 3, that kind of thing. But what I really like is if, as Pius, you choose the green element, which means you side with the ancient Selatath. There are 3 ancients. There's one that's affiliated with brute strength, one that's affiliated with magic, and one that's affiliated with the mind. And Selatath is the mind. And there's one particular cutscene, because the CG cutscenes are different, because he's talking to his different ancient who talks back. And there's a part where he's conversing with Selatath, where Selatath says, like, I know you're going to betray me. And Pius is like, what? No? Like, no, I wouldn't. And he's actually serious. He's not, like, a secret traitor. And Selatath's like, oh, I know you believe you won't, but you will. And she's actually talking about the alternate playthroughs in which you choose differently. Like, she's aware of, like, multiple realities. Like, it's and that actually does factor into the real plot at a point. Like, that's great.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, we could go on. I mean, we're story people, so you're right to ask us. You know.
Oh, and speaking of, one other thing I've got to shout out is BioShock Infinite, because a lot of that game is manipulating probability. So even your deaths in that game are canon, because they rewind to a point where everything, like, it's like Rick and Morty. There's an infinite number of universes. So, like, they pick a universe in which every single thing you did,
except for that
up
thing,
to the point you died, was the same. And then, like, and blink back 5 seconds before the death happens. Don't run into that one enemy. Like, that's great.
It also, like, doesn't make you feel better that, like all those people died. Like, all those versions of you died.
There are many different bookers, and however many times you died, they died. Like,
they're dead.
There are many universes where you just failed.
Wow. But yeah, that I think that'll have to sink it, because we can even make this like a several episode topic.
Yeah, like honestly. Individual story moments in games that are spectacular. Like there's limitless amounts, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, like we're all about this. In fact, I would even go as far as to say sometimes Lotus and I can forego a lot of other weaknesses in a game as long as the story is just that strong.
Yeah, if it makes me want to continue playing, because a lot of people go the other way. It's a game. The gameplay better be damn good, and I get that. There are a lot of games like a Mario game. I don't care about this story. I want it to play well, you know.
Well, it's kind of like Miyamoto's like attitude towards like the lore of Mario. Like there's just shut up. He's here. He's gonna rescue the princess.
Wasn't that like Grant Morrison, who is like you know, who refills the tires of the Batmobile? It's like, it's a fucking comic book. Nobody refills the tires. It's like the most amazing rant.
Which is really funny coming from him, because he's the person that picks out like the table scraps of things that were forgotten in comics.
Yeah, like, but it is really funny where you're like, well, how does he like, you know, have time to make his bed every day? It's like, who the fuck cares? It's like that moment in The Simpsons where it's like, when you're going to the level 3 dungeon, how do you access the wizard's key? Like, what the hell are you talking about?
I apologize. I should say for Grant Morrison.
Oh, I did forget about that. Yes,
I apologize. Mm-hmm. That was a faux pas on my end. But yeah, I mean, you are correct. I mean, like, there are certain things like, you don't care how your character goes to the bathroom, right? You don't need to know about that.
Is Ash Ketchum really still 10 years old? Like, yes, he is. He is. It's fine.
We don't need an explanation to as why the Simpsons are turning 8 why Lisa is turning 8 every single year.
Yeah.
we do not need an explanation as to
Do you
why.
really want to see them get older with each progressing season? Like, no, you don't.
I love actually that they kind of like make fun of that concept by continuously doing like flashback episodes that happen in different decades than the last time they did it.
Yeah,
which is really
like Homer obviously grew up in the 60s.
Yeah, but then they had a 90s episode like back when we were in college where the 90s is where they met each other. Like,
oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, they are.
Was it like they should? Oh man, I can't wait for a flashback 2000s episode where just everything is embarrassing.
Yeah, no,
what were we thinking in the 2000s?
They are basically like making fun of the kind of nerd that would be mad about continuity.
Yeah.
And be like, well, it's 20 years now. It's 20 years ago now, or whatever. You know, you gotta have that. Like,
you know what that reminds me of, by the way?
Homer's supposed to be 35. So, however I know that's funny because that's our age currently.
Well, Homer?
Homer's supposed to be 35 years old.
My brother had like a really old Simpsons trivia book from like the 2000s or whatever. That was 42.
Oh, okay. I apologize, but yeah, I was wrong.
He's
there.
Like an old balding fat guy. But probably one of the, you know, did you know that you're old? Like probably the one that hit me the hardest recently was the PlayStation 2 is now older than the NES was when James Rolfe first started doing his Angry Nerd shtick.
Yeah.
This old system, like the PS2 is older now than it was when he did that. It's
like the people that complain about you know, what's considered a classic game. It's a rolling 10 years. I'm sorry, man. Like, so like if it came out 10 years ago, I know it's fresh in your mind because you're an old person, but
well, yeah, like 10 years ago when I was like subbing in a high school, a student even back then referred to the PS2 as retro, and I was like, fucking oof.
Yeah, but like I'm telling you,
it has 3D graphics. It's not retro.
No, yeah, it's a rolling 10 years.
Yep.
Like that's what you have to go by, because that's a decade. That's a good litmus test. But like, you know, like you're not gonna like it, but it's okay. You're just old. Like you don't realize like 10 years that was somebody's like being 10 to 20. Like that somebody else's 10 to 20. I mean, I know a 20 to 30 isn't nearly as impactful, or 30 to 40 isn't nearly as impactful on somebody's personality. But a lot happens when somebody is growing up from 10 to 20. So therefore, whatever happens during that kind of time period is extremely important to the formation of people's lenses on things as they grew up. So 10 years is like the perfect litmus test for that kind of thing, because you get to see a snapshot of a generation's favorite stuff, and what influenced them. So but anyway, anything else before we wrap the show up here, Lotus?
I'm always going to come up with one other thing, so I'm probably good for now.
Okay, we'll have to revisit this topic. That was a really good question. Thank you for this, and that's the show for this week. We want to thank all of our fans who contributed questions. Please keep us supplied.
Yeah, we have one more.
Yeah, please keep us supplied with topics by submitting questions of your own via the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. We greatly appreciate it, and this is honestly one of our favorite things about doing the podcasts. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. Helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesdays for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on pretty much anything.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting in on conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
That's just Prime. We'll catch you on Tuesday then.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.